When Alex Fisher from Girton Grammar first asked me to speak here at TEDx, I was understandably flattered and a little bit flustered. Having been a fan of TED Talks for a very long time, I was quick to jump at the opportunity. But when I asked Alex what the umbrella topic was for this round of TEDx, she told me it was celebrating youth, to which I replied, "Do I have to?" It was totes awkward. To explain, I personally think that the overpraising of youth in education is one of the most endemically dangerous risk factors that young people today face. We are in ever-increasing margins isolating them from us and vice versa by praising them for being young or for being youths as opposed to their intellectual achievements as fellow humans. Also, I recall what it was like to be young and it was totally rubbish. So why on earth did I agree then? Well, I already had. That's not true. But more to the point, what was I going to say? My specialty in education is essentially sessional voice teaching to professional singers, usually all over the age of 18. Didn't feel terribly relevant. But, much to my great surprise, one afternoon I had an idea that I thought was relevant. So I'm here today to put forward one very, very simple idea. And that idea is BTFO. BTFO. And that's it. BTFO, Mad Cats. Now, I would love to sit here and let you all just decide what that means in your own heads and make up your own versions, many of which I truly hope will be very rude. There's lots of good ones there and you're welcome to try. But I'll just tell you, I stand here today imploring the young members of the human race, the future of this planet and all the planets that might follow, that they bother to find out. Please just bother to find out. You have been gifted with the most unbridled and utterly inconceivable access to the vast majority of knowledge the human race has accrued over the past 10,000 years. That's dating back to ancient writings found from Samaria by archaeologists in what is now modern-day Iraq. If we include cave paintings and like, which we totally should, and other non-written forms of information, we can stretch that back to almost 50,000 years. That's 50,000 years of knowledge. Now, what those cultures may have had to say about who's going to win The Voice this year, or why Ariana Grande licked the donuts in that store, we might never know. But the truth is that the information exists, and you can access it freely. Some might argue the access and the info has always been there, and I'd agree to an extent, but never in your pocket. Odds are every person in this room right now has access to the vast majority of the stockpile of information and knowledge our species has gathered thus far on a device in their pocket. That is unless you've left it in the car, or you think you've left it in your car and now you're not sure and you're totally freaking out. Or you dropped it this morning and cracked the screen 2 days after you bought the damn thing. Am I right? Literally every person ever. So I'm going to go one step further though, and a very important step, and say that beyond this, the youth of Australia, and to a lesser extent, the youth of other countries abroad, have for the first time, I think in generations, if not in history, access to the most important social mechanism pertaining to the freedom of information. And that, my friends, brothers and sisters, is critical thinking. Critical thinking. For the first time, perhaps in forever, to quote the film Frozen, by accident, when people tell you to believe something or to think something, you can bother to find out the truth for yourself. Entirely by yourself. And the power in that, as I will explain as we push forward, cannot be underestimated. So what is critical thinking, I hear you ask? And why should I care, Adam? I hear you refrain. Well, calm down, Jesus. According to the Council of Excellence in Critical Thinking is defined, by the way, they named themselves that. That's a touch arrogant, but we'll let it go. It's defined as skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and or synthesizing information gathered from or generated by observation, experience, reason, reflection, or communication in order to form belief in action. But that clearly is way too hard, isn't it? That's long, so we'll make it shorter. And we'll say that it is the objective analysis and or evaluation of information to form good judgment. It's still pretty hard, right? It's bothering to find out. And in its shortest form, BTFO, Mad Cats, BTFO. Young people, the world is full of people who will tell you to believe things and to think things and to regurgitate things that they want you to regurgitate, when they want you to and exactly how they want you to. All I'm saying is, don't. Just bother to find out for yourself. When I was 11 years old, I found out that tomatoes weren't vegetables, they're fruit. Now, given the fact that my grandfather grew our tomatoes in our veggie patch, this blew my mind. It was madness to me. When I was 12, I found out that the devil didn't run hell. That's not in the Bible. Same age, 12, I lost my religion because I found out that gay people weren't monsters. But the man telling me they were probably was a monster. When I was 14, the Great Wall of China, you can't see it from space. That actually really broke my heart. When I was 18, I found out we use way more than 10% of our mind. Way more than 10%. When I was 24, I discovered that chiropractors aren't doctors. They call themselves doctors, but they're just not. When I was 27, I found that homeopaths are strangers that sell you water and tell you it's medicine, even though it's only water, which is brilliant, by the way. And then only last year, during a bout of pneumonia, I discovered that cough syrup doesn't work. It's not a real thing. There's no evidence. It's $1 billion scam, and what a fantastic scam it is. So why am I telling you this? It's because I'm ashamed. It's not because I'm ashamed. I'm saying this to you because I can recall one thing vividly from being in high school myself, and that is an irrepressible and unstoppable want to not say, do, believe, or think anything that anybody ever wanted me to do so. And I'm not saying for a second you should ignore your teachers or the wonderful lessons they teach you. I'm really not. Or that you should dismiss the truth bombs and life lessons that the parentals give you around the breakfast table in the morning. Far from. But I am saying to the youth of Australia, you have every right to question the information that you are given. Every right. And for the first time perhaps in history, you have every opportunity to do so without being scolded or reprimanded. You see, being skeptical isn't being cynical. I am a fiercely skeptical man, but I am not cynical. I cried at the start of Up like everybody else here cried at the start of Up. Now, there are people who are skeptical and cynical at the same time. Grumpy Cat and so on. Grumpy Cat doesn't believe you, and Grumpy Cat doesn't really care for you. But there is nothing wrong with demanding to know what you think that you ought to know. And the best part is that for now, you can just bother to find out yourself. That is until Tony Abbott bans thinking entirely. Or at least extends that rule past his cabinet. So, how do you critically think? What does that look like? Well, I was very lucky that my grandfather was a man of science in a house full of people that were very religious. And so when I was a very young man, he taught me 6 very, very simple questions that allow you to analyze and observe information by its merits, I suppose, as opposed to a reflex. And these 6 critical questions are as follows. They are: exactly who told you exactly what, exactly where, exactly when, exactly why, and exactly how. I'll say it again. Exactly who told you exactly what, and exactly where were they, or where were you, exactly when, exactly why did they tell you, and exactly how did they tell you. So who, what, where, when, why, how. Yeah? One more time. Who, what, where, when, why, how. These 6 extremely simple questions, in my opinion, would allow you as a generation to build a world for your grandchildren, or for my grandchildren, for your children, that will just be simply awesome. Literally beyond the scope of anything that my mind can currently imagine. I also believe sincerely if we could teach half the humans on the planet to ask half these questions before they judged or before they acted, that we would literally save the world we currently have. Now, the sad truth is that they won't, and they don't, and the adults in particular. And the sad truth is they never, ever will. But you can. And for the first time, outside culture and Stalinism and religion and whatever external forces you might choose to conjure, you have the freedom to do so. I am asking, or I am beseeching you to extend your natural fascination as young adults. The greatest power that youth has, from my experience, at least the best quality I had as a young person, is that I loved to ask questions. You literally couldn't stop me, especially when I wanted to go to a party on the weekend at Leanne's house. I was like, why? 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 I hate you. Why? Literally every other guy is going to this party, Mum. That wasn't strictly relevant. But moreover, there is no sin in asking these questions. I have an app on my phone that teaches me German. Sehr gut. That's all I've learned so far. But it's still pretty amazing. It's a whole language in my pocket. You could, with very little effort or bother, learn medicine and law before you went to study medicine and law. And even more importantly, I have an app on my phone that turns everything I say into a rap. Now, I'm not saying for a second that you should believe blindly everything you see on the internet or all the information you're presented by technology. I'm saying the exact opposite. Just last week, for example, I saw a fantastic picture of a chimpanzee dressed as the Pope. Now, I am 90% sure that picture is fake. My love for Chimp Pope is not fake. That is as true as the ocean is blue. It's actually kind of grey. But the point is, I bothered to find out whether or not Chimp Pope was real. In my defense, that's the one time I actually probably regret finding out the truth. If you allow yourself to live your life through reason and not fear, you can look at people as people and not bundles of difference. You can protect yourself from the damage done by all those people who try and convince you that bad things are good and that good things are bad and that simple things are complex and very complex things are simple. You can also protect yourself from people who will tell you that tomatoes are vegetables, or that gay people aren't just, people. The clue's in the name, by the way. Or that, water is medicine when it's not. It's just water, despite how expensive it is or how many ghosts are inside it. So, in closing, I will say that there is no surer guarantee than critical thinking to put into action a course that allows you as young people to live your lives thinking the thoughts you want to think and speaking them with your voice. And there is nothing as important to our future than this. There is nothing that important. Because we already have my voice. It's pretty good. It's not a big deal. It's a pretty big deal. That's not true. We already have my voice. And we have your parents' voices. We have your teachers' voices. And they're all fine. But unless you bother to think for yourself, BTFO, unless you bother to learn for yourselves, we will never have your voice. And all joking aside, I can think of nothing worse for the human race than that. Nothing. So as a parting blow, I'm going to offer you a little challenge. I'm going to ask you that you bother to find out, within this speech, as rambling as it may have been, there are 10 errors that I very deliberately put into the speech. There's 10 mistakes. I'm sure there's way more than that. But I know for a fact there's at least 10. I'm going to ask you, as young people, to use the second greatest power you have behind your fascination, and that is trolling. And I want you to go online and BTFO, bother to find out what these mistakes were, and then literally drag this biatch until your arms are tired. Bother to find out. Or don't. Because at the end of the day, it is entirely up to you.